welcome you all to this investigative hearing convened by the Ad-Hoc Committee on the need to investigate the implementation and remittance of the 5% user charge on petroleum products and diesel in accordance with the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency Act of 2007. This hearing is being convened in line with the mandate of the Ad-Hoc Committee as resolved by the House to examine the status of implementation, compliance by relevant stakeholders, and the current remittance structure of the statutory user charge provided under Section 14, Sub 1A of the FERMA Act of 2007. Let me begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to the Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives for graciously accepting to declare this hearing open and for the leadership and support he continues to provide in the exercise of our oversight mandate. Distinguished stakeholders, the task before this committee is both urgent and vital. Section 14, Sub 1A of the FERMA Act 2007 provides for the funding of the agency through a 5% user charge on the pump price of petrol and diesel. This user charge was designed as a statutory revenue stream to ensure continuing maintenance and rehabilitation of federal roads across the country. However, there have been persistent concerns and questions surrounding the actual implementation of this provision. Reports and public concerns suggest that despite the continued sale of petroleum products nationwide, the user charge is either not being properly deducted nor remitted in full, or not transparently accounted for in line with the intent of the law. The committee was therefore constituted by the House to uncover the status, process, and level of compliance with the FERMA Act by the relevant agencies of government, including but not limited to 1, the Federal Ministry of Finance, 2, the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, the Nigerian Petroleum Company Limited, National Petroleum Company Limited, the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, FERMA, all oil trading companies, all oil marketing companies, professional bodies in the oil industry, umbrella bodies of stakeholders in the industry. Today's hearing marks a significant milestone in our inquiry. It is an important opportunity for all stakeholders to provide clarifications, submit documents, and help this committee establish the true status of the user charge, the volume of funds collected and remitted, and the extent to which these funds have been utilized for the intended purposes. As chairman of this committee, I assure all stakeholders of a fair, objective, and transparent process. Our goal is not to wish hunt anybody, but to ensure accountability, compliance with statutory obligations, and ultimately to ensure that Nigerian roads benefit from the funding mechanism clearly provided for in the law. The sorry state of our road infrastructure nationwide should be a matter of serious concern to all Nigerians. We appreciate the effort of the Tinubu's administration in this regard. We must play our role effectively so that we have better roads in our country. In doing this, we aim to contribute to a more functional road infrastructure network across Nigeria, which is critical for economic growth, national integration, and public safety. Let me once again welcome all and thank you for your presence and cooperation. I assure all invited agencies and participants, I urge all invited agencies and participants to approach this process with openness, professionalism, and a sense of patriotic responsibility. Thank you very much, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
It is my honor and privilege to stand here before you this afternoon to give a goodwill message on this very important public hearing. The Honorable Chairman of the Ad-Hoc Committee, distinguished honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, let me say that the President of the administration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has brought a lot of reforms that will better the lives of Nigerians. FERMA, as it were, we are facing a lot of challenges in funding, and I salute you for bringing this matter to bear, particularly at this crucial time. I thank the leadership of the House of Representatives, Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the Ad-Hoc committee, the members of this committee for bringing this very important meeting so that we will be able to brainstorm and address this issue head on. The 5% user charge, as enshrined in the FERMA Act, was designed to serve as a sustainable funding mechanism for road maintenance and rehabilitation. However, for years, FERMA has grappled with severe funding inadequacies, hampering its ability to maintain our vast road network effectively. While the agency requires an estimated amount of 880 billion naira annually to maintain our 36,000 kilometers of roads nationwide. We look at our budgetary allocations from the 2023, which is 76.3 billion naira, 2025, which is 103 billion naira, 2024, which is 103 billion naira, and an appreciable increase of 168 billion naira in the 2025 budget of this year. Though these figures shows gradual increase, but they remain far below the necessary threshold for sustainable road maintenance. If you look at this figure, you divide it into 36 states of the Federation, you will agree with me that each state will take 3 billion. 3 billion is not enough to maintain an existing road in each state. This persistent funding gap has forced FERMA into reactive mode of maintenance rather than preventive approach. The consequence of this rear glaring deteriorating road conditions, increased repairs costs, and prolonged disruption for commuters and business alike. A proactive strategy backed by adequate funding is essential for ensuring smooth, safe, and efficient roadways nationwide. Thus, the diligent implementation and timely remittance of the 5% user charge are paramount. This dedicated funding stream offers a viable solution to bridge the financial gap, providing consistent resources to address Nigeria's infrastructure's need without over-reliance on our annual budgetary appropriations. This investigation by the Ad-Hoc committee is more than just an oversight function. It is a collective effort to identify challenges and establish a robust mechanism for efficient resource utilization. The Federal Ministry of Works and FERMA stand ready to cooperate fully, providing all relevant information and documentation to ensure a comprehensive review. Let me affirm the unwavering commitment and dedication of the Ministry of Works to ensuring that every naira collected as user charge serves its intended purpose, building and maintaining roads that empower the Nigerian people and drive economic growth and prosperity. The insights gained from this investigation will not only enhance public trust, but also reinforce the integrity of the renewed hope agenda of our dear President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, translating policy into tangible realities so that our national infrastructure can be improved. Once again, I must commend the House of Representatives for their steadfast commitment to transparency and reform. I look forward to an engaging and productive dialogue leading to a meaningful outcomes for our nation's road infrastructure. I thank you all. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I am asked to deliver Mr. Speaker's opinion, address, instruction to us as stakeholders. I will not pretend to be Mr. Speaker, so as much as possible, I will deliver his position and opinion to you, sir. So, honorable colleagues and distinguished guests, Mr. Speaker is very delighted to be here with you through my humble self to inaugurate this important ad hoc committee of the House with the purpose of investigating the implementation and remittance of a 5% user charge for road maintenance under the provisions of the Federal Road Maintenance Agency Amendment Act 2007. Perhaps to take you a little bit to the background of how this started, the House had on 19th March considered a motion which was brought by a member of the House of Representatives, which showed a non-implementation of remittance of the 5% user charge on petroleum products meant for road maintenance under the Federal Road Maintenance Agency Amendment Act. The House had expressed concern over the failure of relevant agencies of government to enforce the statutory charge and remittance of funds to FERMA, and adopted the motion which resulted in the constitution of this very important ad hoc committee, with the mandate to investigate the circumstances of the failure of relevant government agencies to comply with that section of the Act. Distinguished guests, it is important to recall that Section 14, subsection 1H of the FERMA Amendment Act 2007 stipulates clearly that 5% of the pump price of petrol and diesel should be allocated to FERMA and the state maintenance agencies in the proportion of 40% and 60% respectively. However, over the years, this section of the Act has been complied more in breach, despite various attempts by the National Assembly through its oversight activities to compel compliance. This has somewhat affected the operations of the beneficiary agencies of government and by extension the Nigerian people who ply public roads. This is further expatiated by the speech of the minister just before me. As representatives of the people, we owe Nigerians the obligation by Section 88 and 89 of our Constitution to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the status of the 5% user charge, to determine the extent of the violation of the law and the amount of money unremitted and those responsible for non-implementation, and profile legislative solution to these anomalies. The assignment of this committee is straightforward. Nigeria now looks up to you to ask the relevant questions and scan through the necessary documents to establish how much has accrued from the collection of the 5% user charge from the date of commencement of the law till the time of this investigation, and how much is standing to the benefit of FERMA and similar agencies at the state level. This investigative hearing should also provide strong recommendations on how to prevent further abuse of the law and streamline the remittance processes to facilitate easier access to funds by relevant government agencies. Mr. Speaker charges you to be diligent in this call to duty to help point out the way forward for Nigeria. Mr. Speaker urges you to avoid sentiment in your work and also avoid cases that may cause the committee to be accused of lack of fair hearing or witch hunt. Mr. Chairman of Ad-Hoc Committee, my bosses, as the House looks forward to receive your report for further legislative actions, be assured of the support of the House leadership as you discharge this very onerous task. It is therefore now my honor, on behalf of Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Dr. Tajuddin Abbas, to declare this investigative hearing open, and I so do.
Who has made submissions, provided clarifications, and shed valuable insights into the workings and implication of the 5% user charge. Your contributions have added immense value to our deliberations, and will go a long way in helping this committee arrive at an informed, balanced recommendations. To our esteemed guests, to our invited agencies, regulatory bodies, industry representatives, and civil society participants, we appreciate your cooperation, candor, and commitment to transparency and accountability. To the leadership of the National Assembly and our Secretariat staff, thank you for your unwavering support and for making this hearing seamless and effective. This committee is determined to pursue this matter with diligence, fairness, and in the best interest of the Nigerian people. We assure you that all submissions made here today will be critically examined as we work towards a report that reflects both the facts and the spirit of our mandate. Thank you once again for your time and dedication. May God bless us all and continue to guide our efforts towards national development. Thank you for coming.
Come out of the prevailing price, market price of fuel and diesel. Whatever lacuna or loophole has been there that has been exploited, we shall block them, and we shall ensure it's not funded from budget. It's from such laws like the FERMA Act, from toll gates and all that, not budgetary provisions. And it's our goal to achieve that for our country. So that when we have left this earth, when somebody says, your father or your grandfather was in the 10th assembly, what did they achieve? This will be one of the achievements that will be mentioned. So we want to say it's not an attempt to wish hunt anybody, and we believe very strongly that this provision of the law can be best implemented during this time of deregulation. This is the best time to do it. And as oil prices begin to move in the international market, those who are in the oil industry in Nigeria must obey the law. Without the legislature, there will be no democracy. It could become a military or a dictatorship or a monarchy. The legislature is what makes it a democracy. And we in the 10th House of Representatives, we are poised to ensure that we perform our oversight duties and the law we make is obeyed for the benefit of Nigerians. We want to see the state of our roads get better. So we call on all stakeholders to please join hands with us We are not winch-hunting anybody. We are not trying to do harm to anybody. We are not trying to do anything wrong. But we are going to insist on the law being obeyed. One of the differences between our country and some other nations is obedience to law. When you travel, even in Africa, you will find that it's the same human beings that are here, that are everywhere. The difference is whether the laws are obeyed. This law and every law made for our country will be obeyed. And this is why we are here. So we want to thank those who have come, and we want to tell those who are here and those who are not to be expecting to hear from us specific day, specific time, when it will come to your turn. We will not bulk several into a day, 5, 6 into a day. We'll be very thorough. I will ensure that the law is obeyed. I want to say that this morning we shall ask only 2 or 3 agencies to speak to their documents. Thereafter, we shall call it a day for today. And then you will hear from us as to when your specific agency will be appearing before us. I want to put it on record that we've invited all relevant agencies, as we are empowered by Section 88, 89 of the Constitution. All relevant agencies have been invited: the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, the Ministry of Works, Central Bank of Nigeria, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the Auditor General of the Federation, the FERMA itself, and all oil marketing firms, all oil trading organizations have been invited. And we shall write them specifically, individually again. NNPC too has been invited. I want to say that we shall write them again to give them their specific day when they will give their own evidence before this committee. And of course, failure to attend, we would apply the relevant rules, both of the House and of the Constitution. But we pray that we don't get there. We want to work together in harmony and in peace and ensure that we achieve the purpose of a better country for us. We want to thank the Minister of Works, particularly the Honorable Minister of State for Works, for attending. I want to really thank you because what we are doing here is for all Nigerians, but it's also for your ministry. And we want to be sure that at the end of your tenure, you can look back and say this is one of your achievements. So we thank you for your cooperation. We thank FERMA, the MD, and the midstream, downstream regulatory authority are here too. We want to thank you for coming. 1 or 2 oil marketers who showed up today, we want to thank you. Civil society and everyone who is here, we want to thank you. So at this junction, I'm relieving the MC of his duties. I think he knows he's relieved after the opening formalities. I will now invite just these 2 agencies to come and speak to the documents they submitted before the committee.
There are submitted documents that speaks to the intent and purpose of this committee. But today, I submitted a memo, so I will just speak to the memo that is before you. The memo essentially covers 3 parts. There's an introduction which is a response to the call by the committee. Then there's a background section. The background section speaks to FERMA Amendment Act, speaks to the need and justification for this investigative hearing, and also speaks to the practices that happen in other countries, because the road user charges, as we have today, is nothing new. It's obtainable in other countries. Other countries also use road user charges to maintain their infrastructure. Then speaks to our current budgetary needs in relation to what we are having. There's a huge, as the Honorable Minister mentioned, there's a huge gap between our needs and the actuals that the agency receives. Then we go to prayers and recommendations. Sir, this memorandum is submitted by the Federal Road Maintenance Agency in response to the investigative public hearing of the Ad-Hoc committee to investigate the 5% user charge on petrol and diesel for road maintenance under the FERMA Act 2007, as published in the Nation newspaper of Monday 2025. As a background to the 5% user charge, FERMA Amendment Act of 2007 was enacted with a toll collection at the former toll gates as the main source. That FERMA Establishment Act of 2002 was enacted with toll collection at the former toll gates as the main source of funds. However, in 2003, the toll gates were pulled down with the intention of introducing fuel tax, which was opposed by the organized labor at the time. The Establishment Act of the agency was amended in 2007 to provide for additional sources of funds, among which is the 5% user charge on the pump price of petrol and diesel. Section 14, 1H of the Amendment Act of FERMA provides thus: the funds of the agency shall consist of 5% user charge on pump price of petrol, diesel, and of which 40% will accrue to FERMA and 60% to be utilized by established states with state road maintenance agencies. So what is the justification for this fund for FERMA? As we all know, the current funding of the agency has been far below the existing challenges on the road network. The federal road network has challenges ranging from pavement failure, deteriorating bridges, missing and damaged road furniture, and emerging environmental impacts caused by climate change. We're all aware of what happened last week in Mokwa, where several lives were lost due to flash floods, and we commiserate with the people of Niger State, and in particular the Mokwa town. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. So, and also there's maintenance backlog, which has also caused insufficient funding over the years. The associated impacts of poor road maintenance, which has been also mentioned, include disruption of connectivity and trade, impede employment opportunities, encumbered access to education and healthcare, deterrent to foreign direct investment, high logistic costs, and endangered lives and properties of our citizens. You may wish to know that to illustrate this funding shortfall we have in the agency, the current estimate required to recover failures on our roads, as the Honorable Minister of State has earlier mentioned, is 880 billion. And in the memo, you have a breakdown of the cost implication for each zone and for each state in the country as of today, the 880 billion. However, FERMA's budget for 2025 is 170 billion. That illustrates the shortfall. So what we have today is almost 20% of our needs. So there's a shortfall of 80%. And 5% user charge will go a long way towards addressing that shortfall we have in funding. Already, since 2007, which spans 18 years, the agency has made several efforts to implement the 5% user charge pump price on petroleum products. But we have not been successful. This dates back to after the passage of the law in 2007. The then MD wrote PPPRA informing them about the passage of the Act and the need to set the implementation process. This also, after that, other consultations and meetings with other major stakeholders has taken place, culminating to receiving presidential approval by the then president of the country, President Jonathan Goodluck. We have presidential approval to implement the 5% user act. We've met with PPPRA that then had a template for adding the highways maintenance component to that template. But unfortunately, we are yet to realize the implementation of the 5%. The last meeting we had in 2019 shows the provision for highways for FERMA, but that has never been implemented till today. So the submission has a catalog of what we've done to date for the past 18 years and up to today, our efforts towards implementing the 5% Act. It might be necessary to mention that, as I earlier said, practices in other countries is road user charges in form of tolling or fuel levy is very common. Countries like United States, Germany, South Africa, India, New Zealand, Kenya, and our neighboring countries in Africa, Burkina Faso, Benin, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Niger, Guinea, Senegal, Togo, Mali, and Sierra Leone all have one form of road fund based on fuel levy. So our prayer, sir, is for us to fully realize the 5% charge and its benefits. The committee is invited to note and consider a multi-pronged approach. And this will include amendment of the FERMA Act 2007 to include clear and mandatory provisions for the collection and administration and auditing of the 5% user charge. Secondly, there's a need to create a road fund account for FERMA. This account will be a dedicated account for road maintenance with statutory protection, ensuring that funds cannot be diverted or delayed by the Ministry of Finance or CBN. Thirdly, there's also a need for stakeholder engagement and public education. Launch awareness campaigns to explain the rationale and benefits of the charge, which could help gain public support and reduce resistance. Also, there is need to synchronize with subsidy removal framework. Now that the first subsidies are being phased out, the user charge can be transparently built into the pricing structure with public accountability. Lastly, full enforcement of the existing FERMA Act. The federal government can mandate the deduction and remittance of 5% charge through legislative and executive enforcement. By addressing these areas, Nigeria can develop a sustainable and efficient road infrastructure system that supports economic growth and improves the quality of life for its citizens. In concluding, the 5% charge on petroleum products, as outlined in the FERMA Amendment Act of 2007, remains a critical but yet to be utilized policy tool for addressing Nigeria's road infrastructure crisis. Its full and transparent implementation offers sustainable pathway to reversing the alarming state of the Nigerian roads, boosting economic performance, and improving the quality of lives of millions of citizens. In an era where public resources are stretched thin, tapping into legally mandated alternative funding sources is not just necessary, but it's imperative. Thank you, Chairman.
To the request for information and invitation of an investigative hearing that was written to NMDPRA, I want to confirm that we have submitted the request for that information. And I'm standing here before you as part of honoring the invitation to this hearing. So I'm going to talk to the document that we have submitted. The document that we have submitted have appendices and all that, but I'm not going to go into all the appendices. For the benefit of presenting what I'm going to say clearly. Yeah, in 2021, August, Nigeria gave birth to Petroleum Industry Act, and that in itself has a lot of benefit for the industry and for the Nigerians. And what is it that happened on that day? We have legacy agencies that were merged, and those agencies are, one, the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, the PEF, and the PPPRA. They are the agencies that were merged to be Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum and Regulatory Authority. I need to clear that. That's why I started that way. So one of the defunct, the legacy agency, the PPPRA, was actually the one in charge of, the pricing and the price template for petroleum products. However, for the implementation of the FERMA Act 2007, the 5% user charge on petroleum product on price, the template were not included in the pricing template that's being used. And authority has not collected any money on it. However, it is worth of note that the FERMA Act 2007 did not stipulate the modalities for the collection of 5% user charge on the pump price or the agencies or organizations responsible for the same. This actually prompted the presidential directive in 2011 by the president, Dr. Ebele Goodluck Jonathan. In January 2011, he directed the then Attorney General of the Federation, the Honorable Minister of Finance, and Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources to work out modalities for implementing the provision of the FERMA Act, given its implication on the final pump price of the affected product. As of date, the authority is not in possession of any information on the meeting and or the resolutions reached of such meeting. But I need to say here that the management and the authority, my authority, we are in sync. We agree with the mandate of this committee. And what was the mandate? The mandate is to ensure that the user charge is implemented. However, we need to see what our recommendation is going forward. In line with all the foresaid, we, the authority, we recommend the establishment of appropriate regulatory frameworks to govern the modalities for the collection of the user charge. Additionally, the framework should clearly designate the agency or organization responsible for its administration and enforcement. That's what our recommendation is, because I sitted there, I listened carefully to the representative of the speaker, I listened to the chairman of this committee, and I also listened to the MD of the FERMA. And I can see so many things in common. What are those things in common? That we are ready as an organization, to look at all those areas that needs to be improved so that the 5% user charge can be implemented. Thank you for your attention.
PPRA and all that. They remain in force even under the PIA and are now your babies. Have you failed the nation in ensuring that this is done?
And immediately we have the PIA. Because one, like I said during my presentation and in our submission as well, that the FERMA Act 2007 did not stipulate the modalities for collection, and it did not also mention, which organization or agency that would be responsible, and also said, because of that gap, in 2011, the then Mr. President, direct 3 ministers that I've mentioned, to work out the... Are there other charges that are in your template? That's why I said... are there other charges in your template? Taxes. Zero tax. No, there are no taxes in our... Are there other charges? There are operational charges. Operational charges that are there. Name some of them. Name some. Okay. MPA, NIMASA is on the template. What gives you authority to charge these? Because, like I've said, those are operational costs. So, would it be right for this committee to conclude that you deliberately did not implement this 5%? No. From the law, it's a responsibility. You can implement MBA in MASA. That when Mr. President saw the gap, he directed ministers to work on the modality for the collection of the money. And I also said that as of date, we did not have any communication, with regard to what are the resolutions. And I do hope that when we are having meetings with the FERMA, all these are discussed. And that is also for part of why we said, okay, going forward, these things needs to be done so that the agency and the modality will be properly stipulated. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Money for MPA. We need to clarify that we are not collecting any money for any agency. Having said that, the last question that you asked, before the PIA, those templates, the BASA and all those things, like I've said, the operational cost that leads to what price they are going to sell the product. They collect all those money. But then, because the then PPRA monitor what the petroleum product price will be. And you also know that, at a point in time, government actually pays subsidy at a point in time. But immediately we have the PIA. If you are going to put anything on the price template, it has to be through regulatory framework that needs to be done. And that was why I said, going forward, all those things need to be done. And the agency that we manage and we collect that money should also be stipulated. Thank you, sir. In the regulatory framework that needs to be put in place to do that. It's the FERMA that needs to do that.
You have an idea of where we are going. You consider the provisions of Section 313, subsection 2 of the PIA. It vests the rights, interests, obligations, and liability of the different PPP, ROA on the authority. We've not seen the efforts made by midstream, downstream to resolve these issues, of particularly relating to this 5%. The efforts you've made so far since PIA came into being. We'd like you to furnish the committee with details of the efforts you have made to carry out the functions as given to you under Section 313 sub 2 of the PIA. We'd like to see the efforts that you have made, especially regarding this 5%. Those are documents we would like to get from you as we move forward. Honorable colleague. Yes, sir. We shall look at the loopholes that these agencies or organizations are using to avoid the implementation of this law and make sure that we cure every such lacuna using legislative instrument. Carried?
Carried.
Come out of the prevailing price, market price of fuel and diesel. Whatever lacuna or loophole has been there that has been exploited, we shall block them and we shall ensure